Welcome to the 15th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, Casey Kantz of WTAJ Sports, and a special guest analyst each week. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, magazines, and collectibles. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. Your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By McMullen Furniture, the friendly store with quality furniture at a reasonable price. By Scotch Valley Country Club, the area's premier golf destination. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday. You can also see the NitWits on AltoonaMirror.com.
Good day to you. Welcome to another edition of the NitWits. The panel all here. Neil Riddell from the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan from Fight on State. And what a pleasure it is this week to welcome in former Penn State offensive coordinator Galen Hall. Galen, welcome.
Thank you, Casey. Happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
Happy to have you. Definitely. Right, Neil?
Absolutely. We've enjoyed the revolving chair, and to be able to bring Galen down here, we have a little fun with him. He's going to pounce on me at some point in the show. So
pounce away, Galen. Feel
right,
free.
yeah.
We always do as well. Unfortunately, we're breaking down a loss today. Penn State falls to Ohio State 35-23. And let's just really start right off the top. And missed opportunities, some penalties that hurt Penn State. We'll start with the missed opportunities, though, first off, because in that first quarter especially, guys, Penn State could have maybe pounced a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you have that great crowd. It was unbelievable. And, you know, right off the bat, you miss potentially a long touchdown pass to Robinson, and then Obang drops what should have been an interception for 6. And that's, I think, what kind of defines really good teams is when those opportunities present themselves, that you take advantage of it. And once they didn't, I don't want to say it took the crowd out, but I couldn't imagine where that crowd would have gone had those plays hit. And it just didn't happen, and, you know, eventually Ohio State got control.
Especially when you're playing good teams like Ohio State. Those are emphasized. You got to make the plays when they're there.
Yeah, particularly with the lack of a consistent kicking game that they have. Although Butterworth, I thought, did a good job yesterday.
After the first punt.
Yeah. Sure. But when you don't know when you're going to go for a field goal, you've got to be able to cash in a pick six once in a while.
Galen?
Yeah, I just think the way the crowd, I live up the hill, and we can hear it from there. And the crowd would have jumped on that first touchdown, and then the interception. You jump up 14-0 on Ohio State with our defense. You're going to be in pretty good shape then.
And the way that Ohio State offense is, too,
Yeah.
I don't think that's an offense that's equipped to come back from behind. Yeah, the other thing about this offense is they just have not been busting the big plays. Their longest rush on the year, 25 yards. Their longest pass completion, 45 yards. And that's kind of, you know, one of the limitations you have with a guy like Matt McGloin. Sometimes he just doesn't throw that deep ball real well.
Looking at some of those missed opportunities, talking to Mike Hall after the game, were you open there, Mike, on the fake punt? He was like, oh, I was open. Instead, Butterworth decided to go to Derek Day, and would have been a great play. But one of those missed opportunities we talk about, if you're going to go for it on fourth down, you got to capitalize.
I thought Ohio State was beatable, but I think they were clearly the better team yesterday, and particularly up front. They really got to McGloin in a lot of key situations as far as the blitz and really won the line of scrimmage.
How about the penalties for a guy, a former coordinator and coach on so many levels?
You can talk about it now, Galen.
9 penalties for 85 yards.
There were, obviously too many penalties. When you have 9, I don't know what they had, 4 or something. 7. Okay, well, but still, it seemed like Penn State's came into key situations. The holding on the punt, and I don't want to get into that, but that's one that sort of iffy, and I'm not sure how much they called holding the whole day. I mean, but still, the penalties hurt Penn State. It kept Ohio State's drives alive, and they capitalized on, I think, on 2 of them. So,
yeah,
that changed the game. I mean, because it's 7-0, and if Penn State gets the ball back, they've been good in the 2-minute drill. If they could have tacked on at least, well, I don't want to say another field goal, but if they would have scored again before the half, and then they're getting the ball back to start the second half. So that was a big deal. That was a big call of the year.
That said, though, a lot of that was self-inflicted. They had a couple of motion penalties and that sort of thing. And so instead of going from 1st and 10, it was 1st and 15. And one of the things they've been great at when they've been playing well is getting into those manageable 2nd and 3rd down situations, and that took them straight out of it.
And they were still able to put up 23 points. Matt McGloin had the career-high 327 yards, but was it just me, or, we talked so much about the NASCAR offense during this 5-game winning streak, and it was brought up to Coach O'Brien on Tuesday at his press conference, and he said, well, it's looking so good because things are going our way. Not in so many words, but similar to that. The penalties and those kind of things take away from that rhythm, and just watching this game, it didn't seem like the offense had much rhythm. Was that valid?
Well, I think you have to give Ohio State defense some credit.
Oh, yeah.
You really do. I think they stopped the running game. Penn State couldn't get anything consistent in the running game to go from 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, and keep this rhythm going. So I think you have to give credit for that. You stop the run game, you can rush a passer, they get pressure on McGloin. And I think Ohio State defense and the penalties had a lot to do with it.
You look at the fake punt, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but a key sequence was when they hit Mosby Felder and he gets down to the 4. They ran Zwinak again, and then they blitzed and really kind of pushed Penn State back right there. That was a key sequence.
Yeah, that was one of the first times this year that we've seen an opponent get a lot of pressure on McGloin. Yeah. He's usually been very good about avoiding it, and the line really had come together. And, obviously that's a factor that you step up a little bit in competition, as Galen said. Yeah. That defense for Ohio State has had its issues this year, but it's a pretty good front 4 that they have. They have some good players up there.
We got to step out, take our first break of the broadcast. We are just getting started, though, on this edition of the NitWits. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Penn State offense and its lack of the big play, so to speak. And then on the flip, we'll talk about Braxton Miller and the Ohio State offense, which was able to get that big play. More on that coming up next.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, magazines, and collectibles. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental.
The NitWits, a weekly look at the Nittany Lions.
All right, welcome back to the Nitwits. Braxton Miller was the big talk this week. He was dealing with that neck injury suffered in the Purdue game the week prior. And I think it was Monday or Tuesday, we found out he'd be a full go, and everybody starts game planning for Braxton Miller. And he's just so fun to watch. Not necessarily when he's beating Penn State, but he is fun to watch. But you're watching this game, and through that first half, you're going, the Penn State defense was pretty much keeping him at bay. He couldn't throw the football at all. He overthrew a couple times. Second half, a different story, though. He got into the rhythm. The interception that McGloin threw right away, kind of hurt things a bit. Miller had the 2 one-yard touchdowns. He got that rhythm going that second half for sure.
Well, they started out the game, Penn State's defense, by forcing 6 punts in a row.
Yeah.
They just needed a little help from their offense, and that defense got worn down. That 1-yard touchdown that Miller ran, I'm sure there were some penalties that weren't called, but that was one of the great efforts you've ever seen.
It really was, because the crowd reacted, and even the music played like it was going to be a stop, and there's Miller bouncing right back around outside for the touchdown.
Yeah, I said Sean Stanley had the best hit of the game. Unfortunately, the guy didn't have the ball. But if you look at that in slow motion, Stanley is hitting Hyde, the running back, Miller, the ball was still there. It was an incredible play. There was definitely holding about 4 different places on that play. Neil, you hit on it, though, that they did a great job early. This is the first time in several weeks, though, that Penn State wasn't able to control the ball offensively, and that defense sure looked tired in the second half.
Galen, you're an offensive guy. Can you appreciate the kind of things Braxton Miller does as a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, what he does to the game is he's always a threat to run. So, and with the tailback or running game or halfback, however you want to call it, you know, your defensive line, they can't tee off, rush a passer. Then anytime you do rush a passer, you're forced into man. The secondary, you blitz, he gets free of that. There's nowhere to go except he has the open field. So he adds another dimension to the game. And, you know, he was a difference in the football game.
And the other side of that, we talked about in the first block, you know, Penn State's lack there of a running game, 234-36. They were outrushed, and you had the stat, only 2 rushing first downs all game. That was huge.
Yeah, you know, and obviously, you know, I don't think the Big Ten's great this year. I think they're proving that, a lot of balance, and that's made it interesting, but Ohio State's the best team, and it was the best team that Penn State has played this year. Clearly, it was a step up in competition.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give Ohio State credit by the same token. I think that was a beatable team. I mean, I think that's given what Penn State's up against, this may be the last time in a couple years, because Ohio State's coming out of its sanctions. So this was an opportunity, and with the crowd, and you know, this is twice this year that Penn State's come into a rocking and rolling Beaver Stadium. And I wonder if the moment was just a little bit too big for everybody. Let's remember, Bill O'Brien's in his 8th game as a head coach. And for everything he's done in the NFL and as good a job as he's done here, you just have to wonder if for him and this team, these emotional games are a little bit too much.
It's certainly valid. We're going to talk about that actually next block about Bill O'Brien just a little bit more because, once again, all 3 losses, he's been very critical of himself afterwards. So we'll get into that coming up in the next block. We'll take a break right now, step out, and talk a little bit about Bill O'Brien coming up after the break.
The NitWits are brought to you by Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal.
Now back to NitWits. A roundtable look at Nittany Lion football.
Welcome back to the NitWits, the panel all with us again for another week. We're breaking down, unfortunately, a Penn State 35-23 loss to Ohio State. 5-game win streak is now over. Ohio State on the other side improves to 9-0. Penn State's got 3 losses on the year. After all 3 of them, we've heard Bill O'Brien in his post-game press conference be pretty critical of himself. Let's start, though, Galen. Just your early impressions. Not really early anymore. We're through 8 games now. But your impressions of Bill O'Brien.
I think he's done a fabulous job. He taken over under very adverse conditions that no one has ever taken over a program in. Had to go out, talk to the media, talk to the fans. I think he's gotten them all behind this program. I think he's done a great job coaching, and and as far as that goes, I think one of the things he's very fortunate of is the senior leadership he's had in the Mahdi, the Zordich, the Hodges, the Jordan Hill, those type of players that stayed here, stuck behind him, stuck behind Penn State. And I just think it's a tribute to Bill and those players that Penn State's where they are.
And you're speaking from experience because you didn't inherit these kind of sanctions, but you inherited a tough situation in Florida and only led them to the SEC title in '84. So
we had pretty good football. We had pretty good football. We had 7 number 1s on offense, and Bill doesn't have that.
One of the cool things, though, and Neil could attest to this in the post-game press conference, when Bill O'Brien says this, he's genuine. Like, I'm an Eagles fan, and Andy Reid gives the same spiel after every single loss, and it comes across as being kind of fake. But I think he realizes he's still kind of just getting this. And the other thing that I like, when you ask the players about it, saying, hey, Bill O'Brien is blaming himself, they're taking the blame on themselves. So nobody's pointing fingers. Everybody's kind of owning up, manning up, and That's why I think they were able to bounce back from an 0-2 start, and that's why I think they'll bounce back from this.
And part of the transition, he was an offensive coordinator. He's trying to score 50 points every week, so he admitted this yesterday. And I mean, I thought it was curious because I think there's been times where he's lost a little patience and leaned to the offense, such as with the fake punt, and maybe trying to get comfortable with settling into a defensive game. That might have been a one-touchdown game with a little bit more patience.
He's kind of been forced into some of these situations, too. We've seen Penn State go for it a lot this year.
Yeah.
14 of 23 on fourth downs coming in to the Ohio State game. Maybe too many chances on Saturday, you think, Neil, or anybody really?
I don't know. The one thing that I kind of scratching my head over was not going for the field goal with Ficken. And I know the kid has really struggled. It would have been, a 37-yard field goal. And then it would have been 42 after the penalty. But I think at some point, I know we're pretty far in the season, but you have to try to at least show some confidence in the kid because he's all you got.
Well, he's made his last 3 that he's gotten up, and the one miss has been a block.
It's
and you
pretty
got to
bad.
figure, unless you're going to have open tryouts next year, you might as well see what he can continue to do, I think, because he's kicked off decently and he's making his extra points now.
And this is what we do. We analyze things, obviously. You win when it's,
obviously.
when it's going well, it's going well.
that's
Neil. When
right.
it's not, it's not. I mean, honestly, if Derek Day makes that catch on fourth down, we're talking about what a great play call it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. We can always take the other side.
Sure.
And Bill's got to make those decisions just like that, where he has in the back of his mind, hey, I'm not going to kick Sam. I'm going to go forward number where I am, and he sticks with it. And that's, a tribute to him, and that's what he believes in right now, and he thinks that's the best thing for his football team.
Yeah, plus, they've made it fun to watch. There's no
worked.
question.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the fake punt might have been there, might not have been the right read. Looked like Hull was open.
And when they've done it, they've been all in. I mean, there's no doubt.
Oh,
and
no,
again, you're right. He's
absolutely.
making the decision. It's like they are going for it. And
Yeah, I mean,
listen,
there's no him on around about it. He's
and
gone.
Let's be honest, it's worked.
Yeah.
They won 5 in a row, and
Without a doubt.
obviously you overanalyze a bit after a loss. Purdue now up next for the Penn State Indy Lions. We're going to give you our predictions as we always do here on the NitWits when we come back.
The NitWits are brought to you by The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By McMullen Furniture, the friendly store with quality furniture at a reasonable price. By Scotch Valley Country Club, the area's premier golf destination. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday.
I'm Matt Stankiewicz, the center, and you're watching the NitWits.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome back to the NitWits special ceremony before yesterday's game.
Yeah, Jim Tarman, who spent 35 years at Penn State as the SID in the late 50s, and then he became the athletic director for about the last 12 years. A plaque was presented to his wife, Louise, and his sons, Jim and Jeff, recognizing his contributions, and it will be placed in the press box. Long overdue. Ira Miller and Lou Prado and Ernie Accorsi and some guys really championed that. And of course, Jim Tarman was writing press releases for the Mirror and the Cove Herald about a young man named Galen Hall.
Yes.
That shows you how old Jim Darman is. Jim did a great job. I hate to say it, when I was here and on through his career. He's well deserving of this.
Yeah, one of the great stories about Jim Tarman was in the early days with Joe Paterno. They would get up a suitcase full of adult beverages, let's say, and go from city to city in the East and have media hospitality suites to help drum up interest in the program. This was before Penn State was, known as a national power. And, I'm kind of having fun with that aspect of it. But seriously, he and Joe, and the way that they built up the program and made it into, a regional and a national kind of presence, a lot has to be said for what Jim Tarman did.
Purdue up next. Let's talk about that a little bit. And
Fran Fisher was there too. Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Jim hosts the TV quarterback show, so just to put a cap on that.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was nice to see Fran.
Purdue up next. We didn't have a Nitwit of the Week, so I don't know how do we want to do this here, talking about the next matchup. Usually we start with the Nitwit of the Week. Mark, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go first. I really think this is a resilient Penn State team. We've seen it so far. Purdue has been kind of up and down, but boy, they really just took it on the chin against Minnesota. I think Penn State's going to bounce back. Offense is going to have a big game. I'll go Penn State 35, Purdue 17.
Whoa, going high. Putting the
Go
pressure
high or
on.
go
Yeah,
home.
I think
Socks on,
this
too.
is a serious character test. I think Penn State has a lot of character, but Purdue went into Ohio State and really had them on the run, and I think suffered a pretty big letdown against Minnesota. I think it's going to be a tough game out there. I'm going to call it a little closer, Penn State 24, Purdue 20.
The Boilermakers having some troubles with their quarterback, Caleb Turbush. He was pulled in that game over Minnesota. They've lost 4 straight. I think Penn State bounces back as well in this one going on the road. I got them 30-17 over Purdue.
Good. Put the squeeze on Brennan.
Little jab over here. Galen?
I think they'll bounce back. I really do. You look at the history of the Purdue game, Penn State's come out on top. I think Penn State 30, Purdue 14, something like that.
30-14. Yeah. So we don't see this having any lasting effect, this Ohio State game.
No, I like where I am point-wise.
Battle lines are drawn.
These two, I mean, you can't see it because we're not zoomed in. These two got these eyes going, man. They're just
Hey, the Nitwit of the Week, the game within a game.
Galen, really appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. Good job.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Hopefully
Appreciate
we'll have
Casey.
you on again, definitely.
All right.
Thanks, Galen.
For Galen Hall, for Mark Brennan, for Neil Rudell, I'm Casey Kantz. That wraps up another edition of the Nitwits. Thanks for joining us. Purdue up next. We'll, of course, be back with you again next Monday to wrap it all up. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you next week. The Nitwits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, magazines, and collectibles. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just Ask Rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By McMullen Furniture, the friendly store with quality furniture at a reasonable price. By Scotch Valley Country Club, the area's premier golf destination. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday. You can also see the Nitwits on AltoonaMirror.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.